Well, as you can see, I'm somewhere with a lot of snow in front of Starbucks, which is still closed for in-store dining, as they say, right? So I decided to record an update, but it took me like 3 attempts to find a camera that finally had full battery. So my Session 8, Hero 8, 45% battery. Second battery, 45%. What? Then this other one, Session empty. Anyway, so I got up at 7 o'clock today in Napanee, Ontario, the Flying J. It snowed overnight, but then it stopped, so everything was good, but a bit cold, like -7. And I didn't hear on the night before, I think I mentioned this, I talked to a guy who had a load from Montreal to Texas, and I give him a rate. Never heard from him by the end of yesterday, and then I didn't want to wait there till 8 or 9 till he comes back to the office. I know, like, chances are if they don't respond right away, that means that that rate is too high for them, and so I just started driving and drove non-stop until I reached 407, which is like 412 over there, just to bypass around Toronto. Stopped there, cleaned my windshield wipers that had snow on them, and then kept driving. And I was in my yard around 11:30, dropped the trailer and wrapped the hydraulic hoses in plastic bags in case it snows again, because they don't like dirt and ice and stuff like that, right? And took the truck to the shop in Guelph. I talked to them on the night before. I said, I have this whistling sound, right? And actually, that whistling became real bad on the trip back. I was afraid I would get stuck somewhere in the middle of the road, but I opened the hood. I looked at all the air-to-air sleeve, those hoses, big hoses. I checked the clamps, everything was good. So, and I put my hand behind them because it's hard to see there, it's very tight, but I try to see if there's any holes in those sleeves, air-to-air, right, high pressure air, because that's what the guy says. He says that kind of like high note whistling sound, and especially in my case, it was totally dependent on the throttle. As soon as you try to increase, like especially sharply, if you just push your foot into the throttle to increase the RPM, that's what you hear, this zing, kind of like, almost like, I don't know, like a bearing in the turbo has gone, or maybe the turbo just exploded, but I don't know, like the power is there, the truck is pulling, except that I noticed right away, let's say it was before the PSI in the turbo would be 20 PSI, now it's 30, like climbing a hill, it's 30 PSI, I'm going empty with a trailer, okay, heavy trailer, but still. So that's what I noticed, like the fuel economy didn't suffer too bad, it was pretty much normal, but I just noticed this whistling sound really intensified when you were climbing a hill, and the PSI was like going all the way to the max, and so I bobtailed to Guelph, left in the truck. I said, so if you could check, so 2 issues. One is the whistling sound, and so probably a leak somewhere in the air-to-air. And the second, I said, could you please adjust the clutch again, because recently it became difficult to get into a gear, like you have to push it like 5 or 6 times, and it doesn't want to stop. I remember on the previous truck, like the clutch brake needed to be replaced, but sometimes they can just adjust the pedal itself, because the clutch is self-adjusting. There's nothing you can do there. But this is the second time I'm having issues with this truck, and it only has 252,000 kilometers on the odometer. The clutch is not of the best quality, on this thing. And so that's what I told him. I said whistling and the clutch. And I said because of this, because it became difficult to get into gear. Also my PTO, I noticed that, you know, when I have to start the PTO, the hydraulics, it does the same, you know, grinding noise, right? I push the clutch all the way into the floor, and then I flip the switch for PTO, and then, you know, and sometimes it keeps making that, so you have to push the clutch again, turn it off, turn on. And then I said also I noticed that the flow in the hoses stays on for maybe like a minute, or even, I don't know, maybe like 90 seconds after you turn it off, it's still flowing. So of course now I know better than to disconnect the hoses blindly. Like I thought before that, you know, once you flip that switch down, the PTO off, it should be safe to disconnect the hoses. But now each time I touch them with my hand, if I feel pressure inside, like movement, I know that it's under pressure, you cannot disconnect them, even though the PTO is off, right? So weird. I said, is it supposed to stay like that for almost over a minute after you turn it off? He said, well, yeah, they should stay a little bit, you know, they don't stop right away. But I guess they'll check that. And I left him my phone number, and I said, please call me when you know what it is and how long it's gonna take. I said, I'm not rushing you, I just need to know. When I talk to people about loads, I need to know when my truck will be available, right? Just take your time, you know, whatever you need, just I need to know the date when I can pick it up. And so the guy calls me back this afternoon, and he says something about manifold. And I'm driving, I'm thinking about something else. And I said, manifold? I need a new manifold? On a 2.5-year-old truck? He says, no, not the manifold. You need a manifold gasket. So that's what happened. He says, basically, my engine blew a gasket. Manifold, exhaust manifold gasket. I don't think it happened to me ever on an International and on the Mac. Now on the Cummins, after 2.5 years, I've blown a gasket. And of course he says, yeah, the gasket itself is probably $2.50, but labor is $2,000 because their rate is 95 bucks an hour. Compare that to Kenworth at $155 an hour. That's just too much corporate greed, you know. So I'd rather pay 95. Call me crazy. Even though I like Kenworth, but at 155 there's a line where my love ends and the hatred begins, and so we're fixing the truck at a cheaper place. And so yeah, he says, I said, any idea how many hours it's going to take? He says, well, maximum, the absolute maximum I'm thinking is 20 hours. And so of course 95 times 20 plus parts plus sales tax, you know. So all of a sudden I'm looking at $2,000 Canadian. So 2,000 Canadian, so which is not too bad. So probably 1,400 US. But that's what happens with the truck. Even like a relatively new truck, you have to be ready for expenses, especially when you decided to be cheap, like me, and did not buy the extended warranty. Because I think if I had warranty, probably this would have been covered. Because how on earth would a gasket blow? Like, I wasn't overloaded, I was just moving an 82,000 pound forklift on my 60-ton trailer. I wasn't driving, you know, 200 miles an hour, just climbing a hill, but that sound started, I was just doing regular hills on 401, and all of a sudden it started whistling, you know. So now I know what it is. So it's not the turbo, it's not like it's $10,000, but it's not a clamp either, which will be probably a couple of $100 fix. No, it's the gasket. And he says to get to that gasket we have to take apart the top of the engine, and including the emissions equipment. There's emissions equipment there, and then he says we have to reinstall it. That's why changing the gasket takes, you know, 15-20 hours. So I booked a hotel, going for 3 nights to the hotel. Try to use my price line again. Each hotel I choose, it says not available. Oh, sorry, the room the room you tried to book is gone. Like, what? I tried each hotel, probably like 20 hotels in a row, each room is gone. I try to call them, and they recognize my number, and they say, oh, we see you have a reservation for January 17th. Is that the reservation you're calling about? I'm like, no. Like I stayed at a hotel before, right, using Priceline. I said, no. Which reservation are you calling about? I said, customer service. I don't understand. I know, I said a couple of swear words, and I don't understand. Oh, of course you don't. 000, customer service, customer service. That option is not available. Screw this. So I disconnected, shut down the computer, restarted, same issue. Something is probably with the website. And I found, I used a different website I used before. Like there's a chain of these guys, right, where you can book hotels at a discount. So I used the one that I used before these guys, and right away I found a hotel which wasn't even listed on Priceline. Nice price, right in Cambridge here. So I'm going to the hotel till Friday, and already talked to a bunch of guys today. Like it looks busy. I'm telling you, this January is much better in terms of freight than last January. Like I think last January I hardly had any work. I was going to and from Alberta almost free of charge, right? Now this guy wants me to go to Texas, empty, power only, and bring back a brand new, some kind of a tanker trailer, 28,000 pounds, but it's like 11 feet wide, from Texas to Montreal. It's like over 2,000 miles. He says, well, they want to pay $7,500. I said, well, that's nice, except I'm 1,500 miles away, and then you have to drive 2,000 miles, so it's like $3 a mile, and then you have to pay permits, because you're longer than normal, because that thing is like 57 feet long, so you're going to be longer, so you need permits. So probably going to spend another $500 on permits. I said, that's too cheap for me, I'm sorry. And plus, they want me to load Friday, and I'm like 3 days away. I said, I told you my truck is in the shop until Friday, right? And then another guy calls me, he says, hey, sir, you remember that load to BC that you had to cancel? I said, yeah. He says, well, I found a guy came from Montreal, and then the load was not ready. They were still waiting for the payment. There was a load here in Cambridge going to BC, and he says the shipper refused to ship because they were still waiting for the money. So he says the trucker had to sit for 7 days, and we were charging them detention, and so now they don't want to pay detention. They're trying to find another carrier. So he said, please do me a favor, if somebody contacts you about this load, just tell them some crazy high number so that they come back to me. So basically they're trying to go behind the back of the broker and not pay him the detention, and of course that will affect the trucker who's been sitting there for a week. It's not his fault, right? That then they hired a truck but they're not ready to ship. Like, why would you? Oh, it's always, you know, happens like this. People hire a truck and then they have some payment issues. Why didn't you wait till you had the money and then hire a truck, right? And then another guy emails me. He says, oh, I got a bunch of these rock trucks, and they're like 777, Caterpillar 777G. And I look at the specs. It says 16 feet tall. Yeah, that sounds reasonable. 16 feet tall, and I think only about 11 or 12 feet wide, and they're 125,000 pounds. And I said, well, first off, 16 feet tall, I don't think I can do that on my regular trailer. You need a beam trailer. And secondly, 125, it's too heavy for 9 axles that I have. I said, if you pay me some money up front, I'll go to Fontaine dealer in the States where my new shiny flip axle is sitting. And I'll pick it up, then I'll have 10 axles, then I can do 125. But I said, I don't have a beam deck. I cannot move a 16-foot tall machine on a regular trailer. I'm sorry. But that would have been a spectacular load, you know, like for my YouTube channel. So yeah, there's some crazy loads out there. And then what else? Some guy is moving a crane. You know, they all send me these quote requests, which are kind of like a waste of time, because the guy says, my customer is looking to ship this crane in the fall of 21. Like, fall of 21? Why are we looking for the quote now in January of 21, like 10 months away? I said, okay, I can do this one. The one is like 100,000 pounds, another one is 90,000 pounds. I said, I have one truck, one trailer. Here's my rate. If your customer can wait, I'll do them back to back, because this was like from South US to Canada. I said, yeah, I'll go there, deliver, come back, and, you know, be like a bus. Okay, I'll forward this to my customer. You do that. So yeah, like I said, I like this. I like that it's busy. It's busy. People have freight. You know, everybody was saying when the administration in the White House changes, like there's not going to be any work. I don't see that. Quite the opposite. I see some kind of an improvement. Except, of course, Biden shut down the this XL pipeline. But now they're writing here in Canada that, so yeah, Alberta is pretty angry. What is it? Q-line XL, you know, that one. But now this other, there's a competing pipeline that one has had a green light long time ago. So now this pipeline is actually, they're jumping for joy, because now the main competitor, you know, is dead. And so there's still oil, there's still construction, and I don't know, things are looking up, I think, in terms of freight, except my truck broke down. So no word on the loan, on that government loan yet that I mentioned before. Yeah, as soon as I have that, so my priority number one would be getting this extra axle number 10. So then I will have 10 axles, no matter if I'm using the lift axle or not. So that would come in very handy. And maybe then also I might order the deck insert. You know, like make my deck 5 foot longer, like a 5-foot deck insert from Fontaine. That's also pretty expensive, but it's very, very useful, because, you know, I look sometimes at my trailer from the side and I cannot believe I have all these axles in the back, like the booster. I have the truck, I have the Jeep, but the actual deck, the place where you make money, is 26 feet long. Just doesn't make sense, you know. It has to be at least, I don't know, 30, because I'm telling you, I missed quite a few loads where they wanted 28 in the well, or 29 in the well, or 30 in the well. I need a longer deck. So those are the news. So now you're up to date. Thanks for watching. I'll do an update when I pick up the truck. Chances are next week I'll be going back into Midwest to bring another Cat 336. I know you guys cannot hear me when I'm driving because of the loud exhaust. Thing I forgot to say is my brother's still in the hospital in Sochi, Russia, with a broken arm, and because it's near the shoulder, they need to do an operation, so he's waiting his turn. They need to insert a metal plate so that the arm can heal. But he's in good spirits. By the way, that's my pressure, 32 psi, 33, and my door sticker says 32. But usually for the winter, because you know, I'm away, right, for a few days, so and then the temperature would go down, so I prefer to slightly over pump it. And in winter I usually do 40 psi. And there's a place, that's Cal Tire, that they do it for free. You just go there and take some, you know, 5 minutes. They have the hose right there, so usually you go there and you say, hey, can you guys please add some air? And last time I was there, so some young kid, and he says, how much do you need? I said, well, you know, in winter, can you please make them all 40 psi? Because it'll go down, right? Like now it's -5 Celsius, so once it gets like -10, -15, it'll be, you know, 34, 35. This guy, some old guy, comes out and he's not very happy because he was doing something else, right? And of course for this they don't charge you, so it's free and it's cold outside. So this guy comes out and he doesn't look happy, and I say, can you please make it 40? And he says, let me see your door sticker. I can only do what the door sticker says. I said, no, the door sticker says 32 and I already have 33, so it's not gonna work. And the guy said, well, that's it, I cannot help you. I said, what a waste of time. So I said, please put back that cap on the valve. I said, just some people are like nuts.